Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bájò, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bájò, olúwa mi ò dìde ojó ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Hello and welcome to the Ashen Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by the legendary Neurotoxin and the infamous Diggs. How is everyone doing? Doing okay?
Doing good. Maybe better than the last show we did. For reasons outside the context of the shows, but things are good.
I have no idea what that means, but I'm happy for you. All right.
Yeah, it has something related to the last episode's title, but I'm not really going to get into, spoilers.
All right.
Anyway, so there was a lot. There was the Extra Life charity.
Mm-hmm.
There's this dev discussion that's been going on. I feel like there was some other stuff, and then of course there was the Sumer had the 100th episode of the
Ashes Pathfinder.
Yeah, Ashes Pathfinder.
Ashen Pathfinder.
That's 100 episodes strong. Congrats to you folks. Congrats to the team there. And it was really great that Steven was nice enough to jump on and join them and reluctantly drop a whole lot of lore that we're going to be chewing on until, we asked more finely crafted questions at the next big opportunity. Maybe our 50th?
That would be nice. 100. I mean, wow. That's
that's an achievement.
Congrats to them. That is a lot.
It's dedication. That is dedication.
But yeah, we have a lot to talk about. I still admittedly am catching up. So I think the first thing, what we, I guess, planned on before having such a wonderful interview was the, how did they word it? Overgearing?
The dev discussion. And it took me a little bit to kind of think it over, and kind of reading over everybody's responses, I kind of saw what the issue was, is that the question that should have been asked wasn't necessarily overgearing yes or no, because people are going to give their opinions on that. But more importantly, the better thing that I was starting to see out of that, which is why I created a separate discussion for it, is what are the actual mechanics and limits to overgearing that everybody wants? I'm going to not even assume, I am going to guarantee to each and every one of you watching this stream and recordings of it in perpetuity, if the game releases, there is going to be some magnitude by which higher level players give better gear to lower level players. It's going to happen through gameplay, it's going to happen through commerce, it's going to happen through a variety of means. You just got your buddies in, you want to try to level them up faster, you give them good gear. The magnitude by which people are kind of talking about, I don't think is going to be the same. I don't think there's going to be a level 10 to 19 battleground where you intentionally don't level your character to 20 and instead load them with the absolute top tier best in slot items in a game where best in slot items even exist, and you just rumble over everybody.
But I'd like to talk about the concept, because I think maybe even the strange part about the question is we don't really even know how gear works for Ashes,
Right.
and what is even the possibility that people would want to try to overgear. So when I played Neverwinter Online, I actually did join a guild, which I often don't do, but that guild was basically made up of solely of people who followed a certain streamer who had like a couple of hundred followers of streamers. We would watch him play, and once we started to play, we formed a guild. Then you kind of had to be a follower of this streamer in order to be a part of the guild. I normally don't join guilds because guilds often come up with rules and you have to do this and promise to do that and blah 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 blah, and I don't make those promises. So in that guild we had a in our guild bank we would put our cast off gear so that lobies, newbies could come in and grab whatever they wanted. Um, and I don't think we thought of it as overgearing or whatever. Just whoever could use the gear and wanted it would grab it. But I think the way it's likely to work in Ashes is that we're going to be enchanting gear towards the way we individually like to play, and that's likely going to be dependent on our abilities and our augments, and what works for me may not work for you. I don't know that I would want Neuro's high level gear because he doesn't play the same way that I play, and he's not going to be. His abilities are going to be different, and his augments are likely to be different. So I'm not even sure why I would want.
They also even talk about it on the group level, so I wonder if it's the sort of thing where, just as a funny example, you spec your equipment in such a way that lightning damage not only doesn't hurt you, but it heals you. And one of your casters has a spell that's able to friendly fire hit everyone in an area for just ridiculous damage, just ridiculous lightning damage. But instead, your party has all set themselves up, you and your group or whatever it is, so you just weather the storm. You stand in it, you fight in it, it empowers you. Anybody who comes for you, they're getting shocked, they're getting beat up. It's not a good scene. So, I could see something where you've got, say, that level of specificity. So you have to spec it a very certain way and play with people who are spec that way. It could be that, Lightning Soldiers becomes the build and everybody starts doing that and becomes a flavor of the month until the devs come down from on high and smite it. Or some other build comes around that's able to counter it.
Or just a different build that people prefer.
Yeah.
But yeah, is it going to be a thing that you're doing through your guild or through your party, through your node,
Or your religion.
society, all kinds of stuff? Like it's just
So
it's kind of strange.
I agree with you that there's such a level of ambiguity that it's really hard to talk about what we specifically want to see compared to what we think there might be. So I think it's kind of fair at this point for while the floor is still kind of open, people to suggest specifically what they want to see, what they think would be satisfying, and the devs will read it and they'll do what they want with it.
Well, but again, I'm kind of wondering even just about the concept. So how would overgearing work in Ashes?
It's
Because
kind of an odd
I don't think we,
concept.
yeah, I don't think we overgeared in Neverwinter Online, or at least the guild that I was in didn't really overgear. We just cast off the gear, and then people who wanted it would grab it.
Yeah, I mean, hypothetically, if you're playing the game productively, you're gonna be discarding and upgrading your gear at a reasonably frequent rate relative to your actually going out and using the gear. So, uh, I would imagine people are going to, unless somebody's doing some very special thing where they want to get the toughest, tankiest, like low-level character, so that way they can, try to harass gankers and make them take on way too much corruption for having to deal with this, fairly legitimate threat, or, green that they thought they could just go and kick them over and take their note or whatever. Other than that sort of stuff, I don't really expect that anybody is going to be staying at a level where they're going to be keeping their, equipment and trying to upgrade it too much unless they're able to actually upgrade it as they level and keep it with them. Some games have done that. I want to say Defiance was one of my favorite examples. There were 3 weapons in particular that really made my character's build. it was this super build. I was just lobbing explosives left and right. I could chain this ability where I was just constantly firing, never had to reload. It would just automatically reload when I blew people up. It was ridiculous. And I was able to just keep upgrading those weapons every time you got your little micro levels because they didn't have like a 1 to 60. It was 1 to 6,000 or something like that. And you would constantly get these little micro levels. But when an actual event came around that you were under level for, it would actually jump you up to that level of power and upgrade your items too for the moment. So if there was a big war going on, you could still participate on the same level as the big kids. You might not have your full skill tree filled in like them, but your attributes and your weapons power would at least be able to match them. So I mean, there's an element of even being able to do that too, where if they wanted to, they could make it that all PvP encounters are kind of a little bit more normalized, and it's only PvE where the level of the gear really matters as much.
Well,
A lot of ways they could play that.
yeah, because I know weapons are supposed to be progressive. So supposedly there's uh 5. So your weapon can advanced weapons can have up to 5 weapon abilities. So you would ostensibly start off with um a weapon that has only 1 weapon ability and eventually have one that has 5. And I would imagine you would be attempting to progress that weapon. So that's also a thing. If your gear has progression on it, then you are likely to want to maintain that for a while. I
Yeah.
prefer to have signature armor and signature weapons so that people can recognize me. I want to be like Superman or Batman and be recognized by what I'm wearing rather than constantly giving it up. Um, but that's kind of part of the strangeness of the question to me is if I'm making my weapon progression specific to what I like to do and the way I like to play. Um, that's the same thing for my armor. Does it even fit for someone else? Bound on pickup. There may be attunements.
Yeah. I mean, that's also kind of going to what I had said in the post and included in the kind of the reply post to that post for the dev discussion was basically the idea of using more of like a progression system where perhaps there's legendary items that have like a fixed attribute and a fixed progression. As the item levels up, it's only going to have certain features to it, but common items or things that are not legendary slash unique slash fixed sort of deals, as you level up and as you use them more, you're able to upgrade them in a way that's custom to what you're trying to do. It could be that, for example, you're going for like a fast fencer sort of thing. So you've got your saber or your rapier or whatever that you've been maximizing its range and its speed, so you can do really fast lunges, hit people from far away with it. Maybe you sacrifice a little bit of damage or a little bit of the area that you would get like swinging a broadsword, but where you compensate for that is that you've got excellent reach. All of your bleed procs and bleed abilities are able to be maximized from as far away as possible, and proc for as hard as you can possibly expect to hit, because that's what you've been doing. You've just been continuing to upgrade this weapon from early game. And in fact, I even go a little bit further. I referenced like Ogre Battle for Super Nintendo or Pokemon, or I'm sure there's tons of examples that do this, where you have the option to start something from the lowest level rather than starting it from like 10 or 15 where you would normally pick it up. And that lowest level version, if you upgrade that all the way to max level compared to just picking something up that already had some levels on it and got to max level, you're actually going to make something that's like the most powerful version of it. So personally, I like that. I like the idea of, with Guild Wars 2, you make this beautiful armor, your full look, your full color and attire, in the process of the character creator, and then like 5 minutes later, you've got a quest that's got you completely swapped out into local rags, and it's like, okay, of course you can put all that stuff in your aesthetic slots, and that's wonderful, but I want that armor that I made in the character creator that made me a badass be the thing that I wear through the game in perpetuity. That's why I designed it that way.
Hmm.
And I want to be able to have it upgrade in ways that reflect that I've done more with it, that it goes from this, kind of ornate but still basic sort of shape of the helmet to getting more like ridges and flanges and other things as it gets upgraded into different levels and different kind of, not going to say tiers, but let's say like 1 to 10 versus 11 to 20, etc., is where you've kind of got visual augments that will start to occur on the equipment. That's the sort of thing that I'd really love to see with this. It actually goes back. There's a document that I wrote far back with EverQuest Next Landmark stuff, specifically about the subject of continuing to upgrade your specialized item over time. And gonna throw in a little Star Wars Galaxies reference to the idea that the items that have been customized for players, as they're used, as the players are successful with them, the crafter kind of gets their latent experience gain from that. That it's not just working on the item, but the person actually using it and making good progress with it. That actually helps level up the crafter as well, because it's like, here's the proof that you actually did make a good quality weapon or a sturdy piece of armor. So I know that's a whole lot of stuff there, but a strong progression system rather than constantly tossing your gear for the next dungeons, cruddy rags or rusty armor or whatever that's going to be your shiny new set for the next little bit, just the next shiniest thing comes along. Or in very rare cases, some people will just settle on something that's weak just because it looks good and just try to fight with it. Like, that's something you would do, Diggs, for sure.
Yeah, I'm a little distracted by what Chip. I don't know what he does to sell his body or whatever he does to be able to give multiple subscriptions and two different streams in one day. Um, but I love it. He seems to have
I think what we're looking for is thank you.
unlimited pockets, um, which is great. But yeah, so we've been talking in chat about um, binding on pickup. I'm a socialist. I'm a hippie socialist, so I like to give stuff away for free.
I feel
Um,
like because I feel like this question
Of course.
has two components. One, stepping even further back, I think the question itself tells you a little bit where they're going to go with gear, right? They wouldn't ask a question if it didn't have some sort of influence on what they're doing. My point being that obviously it would appear gear will have some sort of attributes that get better the higher level they are, whether that's strength, whatever, charisma, stamina. That's I think where they're going from. But I see it as sort of a two component here. One is the economy. So can I trade items? Right. So that's part of the overgearing question. After I've used a level 40 weapon for 5 levels and I got a new one, can I in turn sell that or pass it on to someone else? Which has implications to economy, to crafters, not just to the idea of twinks. And then there's the question of twinks. So do they get the full benefit of a level 50 sword even though they're level 10? My preference actually falls in line with you, Diggs, that I don't like the idea of no drop or bind on equip. Those are two things I just don't. I understand the reason behind that. Easier to balance the economy if you don't have items popping in and out all the time. I don't like that though, because I do like the idea of. It doesn't make sense to me. Number one, why? Because I swung a sword. Is it only mine and no one else's? Is that part of the magical lore behind it? I don't know, but there
That's
never
the
seems to
other
be a
thing.
reason.
The other thing that I'd kind of talked about in the post, and I guess I kind of got into ranting before I kind of go went over all the stuff. But the other thing was the idea that instead of a bind on pickup system, is that items are only at a certain level of potential in their kind of generic state in which you find them, or you picked it up off an orc that was using it. Well, it's not, or maybe not an orc. Let's say a troll. You picked up some weapon off a troll that was using it, and so you want to be able to customize it in a way that you can use it. Um, Maybe for it was a short sword, but for you, it's like a giant two-handed, the thing that Cloud uses in Final Fantasy. And so you have to actually get it tailored so that you can, properly handle it, that it's like weighted for you, that the grip is able to work with your size and the radius of your hands and that sort of stuff. So you have to customize the item in order to actually get all of its potential and be able to maximize use of it. Well, once you've done that, the next person who comes along, they're going to need it customized for them. So maybe they need a couple inches knocked off the edge of it or something, or whatever it is to make it work for their size and ability. So they would have to go through perhaps a more costly process than the initial change to kind of retailer it for them. So that could be something that it's not necessarily that you can't hand an item over. It's any item that you've actually been using for a reasonable amount of time, you've customized and tailored to your grip and your shape and your balance and everything. And you had a crafter do that very carefully. And so to do that for somebody else, it's going to be a reasonably expensive sort of change, just because there's so much little nuance in really being able to properly customize something.
I so I when I think about passing things down, right? I'm gonna pass down my weapons. I'm gonna pass down my armor. Again, I think in my mind, I would kind of want it to be kind of like Superman or Batman. It's gonna be to an apprentice who is gonna be following my path. So I'm gonna hand out my batarang and my utility belt. Um, and those people will want to follow my style of um, role. Uh, but yeah, so I wonder what that would mean for needing to regrip. I mean, a batarang doesn't necessarily have to be rebalanced, um, but I think that whoever I give it to might want to make some slight
Well,
changes anyway. I mean, that should be possible.
we were
So.
Kind of a funny example, because I consider that more ammunition than like a fixed item that you're going to keep reusing. If it's got a boomerang effect, then however you're bouncing Xena Chakram or whatever, the rules for that are going to be the same rules for your batarang. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that could be your, you paid to attune it, I paid to unattune it and attune it. So I have an
Yeah,
added
and
cost as a hand-me-down.
I am again, because I'm a hippie socialist. I'm not a fan of in-game economies, actually. So, um, I usually try to bypass them altogether. Uh, humans are way too well. Humans in the U.S. are way too capitalistic and greedy for my tastes, especially in-game. Um, but so I don't know that I would want it to be designed specifically so that it was more expensive. But I think what Phantom says makes a little sense. You might need to um, spend extra coin to take some stuff off so that you can put some other stuff on. Sure.
I mean, my preference as a pantheon of Pantheon is what Chris Perkins had basically said, that they're not really going to have a, uh, no drop, bind on equip sort of process. The item itself might have a level requirement. If it's a level 50 sword and I'm level 25, I only get half of the stats, and I guess theoretically then your character learns the rest of how to use that item or that equipment as they level up. So they learn how to use it more effectively. By level 50, they get the full benefit. I think that's sort of what I would prefer to see. I would honestly be fine with just passing around everything. Don't worry about stats if it's a level 50 sword. I can see where, especially in a PvX, whatever the hell you want to call it, type game, people would probably throw a fit about that if they had some sort of twinked up level 10 rogue just assassinating everyone level 40 and 45. But so that's probably not going to happen for that specific reason. But
I would mean there's
But I
some
mean,
serious rock paper scissors that's going on there.
but why wouldn't there be level restrictions like there's likely to be? Just, I mean, when
uh,
I get, it's probably not. I'm probably at level 10. I don't expect to be able to use a level 30 sword that I don't even know how I would find one. Um, so
well,
when I'm level 30 and I pass down my level,
I think what you would get at is
go ahead.
the items wouldn't necessarily have a level requirement, right? It's just a badass sword that you found in a level 50 area, so it's not going to say, level 50 sword. It's just going to be sword of badassery, and you just pass it down. Versus the other approach where it's a level 40 sword and actually says it, and so then the stats are reduced. I think if you just don't have that at all, you just don't actually define a level. I see what you're getting at. Like you have to somehow get used to using as a character an item, but I don't think
the tried
But if
and
there's
true and
level,
unfortunately kind of lazy material equals level. I could see that you're a miner and you've mined an ore and had it smelted and processed into ingots and handed to a crafter who then crafts you an item that because of the item level, material level relationship outpaces what you can currently use. For whatever reason, they didn't put a limit on your mining ability, so you were able to mine true steel or whatever. And so now you've got a true steel sword, and for some reason, when you pick it up and touch it, it's like the heaviest thing in the world magically until you hit level 30 and you figured out how to pick up your Milner or whatever.
yeah,
It's
I mean, depending on how the quest system works or how the gear system works, it basically doesn't matter because most games nowadays, every level or so, you're getting a new weapon with slightly upgraded skills, anyways. So the idea that you're just undercutting the level, I mean, it's basically the same process. It's just you happen to have the same named piece of equipment the whole time rather than switching it for something different. I mean, the
yeah. I mean,
process itself is the same.
if there's level progression, I expect the gear
See, I hate that.
associated
I hate that.
also,
I love the old
because
days
you
of
hate
EverQuest.
level progression, but I'm not aware of
Like I
EverQuest
can
not
remember
having level
specific.
progression.
No, no, I'm talking about the gear. Like it was monumental when you got a new item, right? So I had a little spell book. I forget the name of it. I think I got it in High Pass Hold that I had for 10, 15 levels before I found something else that made sense to switch out. So it was a big deal versus now where you're in most MMOs. I mean, you're every level basically as you enter a new quest zone, a new hub, you're getting something slightly better. So those single, it becomes less of a cool experience of upgrading your gear and more of an expected one. Nowadays if you get 2 levels and you haven't had a new item to equip, it's like what the hell, what's going on here? This
yeah.
isn't right.
And I feel like that's closer to like a D&D or a tabletop sort of progression. You aren't finding, a new wizard staff every 3 battles. You'll basically be using the focus that you started at the beginning of the game with until maybe, just maybe, you'll find a magic staff somewhere and like, okay, you can cast spells with +1 now and you get 2 extra spells a day, but if you use it 3 times, it explodes. Maybe. uh and that's it's an upgrade, it's progression, but it's not a huge one, and you didn't see that item until level 7 or 10 or something, way down the road. It's not something you saw at the beginning of the game. So I feel like it's almost more that level of progression that EQ had that you're kind of talking about there, where you don't need as many upgrades. Your class upgrades, your level upgrade. That's what makes you more powerful in like a tabletop game. And gear, sure, there's items that can give you great effect. There might even be lesser items that just give you some super utility, like the one of my wizards that just makes ridiculous ice structures everywhere, with cantrips basically, and an
Uh,
uncommon item. So but that's compared to like what you were saying, a modern MMO where yeah, you're gonna within one level of gameplay, you're going to find like 2 to 3 viable items for every slot that you could potentially swap out what you currently had with.
but I mean, that's all the carrot now, right? That's part of it. Now it's oh, have you done quest, whatever to get item X yet? And like everybody expects this
That theme
treadmill.
park.
I
Ugh,
mean, and that to me is what this question sort of implies. It's not necessarily going to be a theme park like we think about it, but it sounds like the item progression is going to be the same. It's going to be presented differently, maybe, but the idea that your character gets a new item every level, um, and that's just I guess part of the whole urge to keep playing, the reward that you get for spending an hour a day. Or whatever. But I like it more so because then also when you have these rare items like that, you're not really twinking because they're still meaningful to people very far into the game. It's very rare. Early days, anyways, with EverQuest. Now it's basically the same. Everything's gone towards the same. But the very early days. I mean, most people aren't giving up that max level gear because it's a long time before they replace it with something any better. So you didn't have to really worry about twinking because people just you didn't do that if you'd be dumb. I mean, I always tell the story of selling ports in EverQuest as a way to make money, and just one random day got a sort of high end item that had a clicky on it, and it blew my mind away. Like that somebody would tip with that. I mean, that's just because it was unusual because you kept a hold of those things because they were hard to get. And this is now, it's sort of this steady climb, and everybody passes through the same thing the whole way. Not just in level and story, but also gear. And I mean, I hope that. Anyways, I'll stop there. But I'm kind of getting off target or off topic here. But I guess just to say, I would prefer it be a system where you can give up your item at any point, sell it, give it to someone else. I would prefer it be that you actually have no requirements on those items. I understand there probably will be. So a system like a level progression.
There's a very specific reason why they might just allow everything to be tradable. It's going to be the silliest thing. So, okay, I've created enough suspense, right? So, players are going to go out of their way among their friends to get themselves so corrupted that their buddy can go kick them over real fast, take all their gear, and put it on. And then, bam, bind on what?
There's a very good question. Are you reading that, Diggs? Are you typing a reply? No.
No.
Because this gets to my idea of not leveling. Darren Nomad mentions was it curious to try a system with little to no gear progression other than those items tied to new skills the character has developed or learned. And that kind of gets into this. I floated a while ago, probably most people watch us now, it wasn't watching us then, this idea of not having levels as a progression, which Diggs tore apart. But that kind of fits in it too, that where because nowadays what we get into is you have this quick 0 to 60, and then progression is just gear from that point because now you have gear scores. So it's the same thing, but it's instead of a character level, it's a gear level. So that would fit into my idea of character skills and learning skills as progression rather than a number on a character or a piece of equipment.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of perhaps even an achievement based sort of progression. We've talked about this where it's the things that you've done in the world, how many times you've used items and against what, and what you've encountered and what you've crafted and all of that sort of, so that kind of defines where you're at with things more than the specific items that you're using. It could be that material is more correlative of the durability of an item and how long it's going to last relative to needing to repair or replace it. And it's more like, not are you wearing super holy plate mail +5 that you got off of this one specific boss? Is it, are you wearing plate mail, and what things do you have that you can use to augment yourself in it while you're wearing that plate mail? And just, you're in plate mail. Great. That's the check mark. That's the part that's more important, not necessarily, the features of it, just that it's going to be, hopefully durable enough to last a couple battles.
We've got a lot longer on this topic than I thought we would.
We
So
did.
bottom line is we're all hippies and we just want to give our shit away when we're done with it. Is that right?
I think bind on
Well,
pickup is
actually,
one of those
Diggs
features in MMOs that wastes our time and effort.
Diggs would give it away. I'd probably sell it because I'm one of those capitalistic whores. So, and you have alts. I don't. Got to make money. Sorry.
I mean, transactions are a thing on the biggest West Coast WoW server, the one that was like the uh, North America, Australia, New Zealand sort of like PvP focused server from launch day. I basically crashed the engineering market because I would do everything but the one thing I couldn't craft for, a little above cost, or you bring the materials and it's just going to cost you like, 10 silver or something ridiculously cheap. And, I got plenty of business like that. Um, I have a feeling a lot of people already had their guild's internal kind of engineering infrastructure worked out, but I got a
I will
lot of
say,
engineers.
a lot of those responses seem to have this assumption that lower level characters, mid level characters, are going to somehow play a big role in the PvP component of this game. I'm not so certain that's the case. Well,
Going to be warm bodies, but eventually they'll be level 60. I don't
yeah,
think it's something where we have to have lower level people. It's just
yeah,
they will be there and they'll still be present and useful.
like how many twinks will be involved in caravans or guild sieges or big, sieges of metropolises. How many
Certainly will be. I don't know how many, but they
how
will be.
well, I mean, when you have so much at stake, how many guild
What do you
can
have at stake?
But I guess that's maybe not the word I would use, because kind of going to the original argument that I had in the post, I wouldn't necessarily use the T word, or call it overgearing here. I would definitely say it's natural to expect that a guild or a community is going to do what they can to arm their citizens, arm their allies, arm the direct people that are going to keep that place safe and running as best as possible. And so there's already going to be this communal effort to make sure everybody's well armed and, in good shape to be able to fight. So I don't expect that it's going to be something where it's necessarily like, oh, that caravan's being protected by a bunch of twinks, man. And after getting rolled by the caravan crew, but it's that, oh, the caravan crew is comprised of like the most well armed and well trained of the people in that group, and maybe they're not all max level, but the players themselves are really good players, and between the equipment and the player skill and the coordination, them being less than maximum level didn't make a difference in them rolling you and keeping the caravan going.
I don't know. I guess there'll be, yeah, PvP for all levels, but
Well, it is again PvP for all levels because it's objective-based PvP. You don't have to be a specific level to. If you're level 1 and you can slip by and get to the relic because everybody else higher level is fighting each other, you get to slip by. The
Yeah,
level's not going to stop. And
with the stuff that they've talked about, that the caravan will have levels and the ship will have levels and your mount will have levels, and I imagine emplacements, in a fort, like your ballistas and stuff, those might have levels too. And it could be that you don't need to be at that level to operate them. It could very well be that your catapult crew is all the lower level people.
yeah,
You know,
um,
that'd be fine.
yeah.
I mean, would anyone have? I mean, and I guess this is assumption on my part that this is a PvP concern. I mean, would anyone have concerns if this was just an entirely PvE game about having twinks? Because my experience has always been like World of Warcraft. Twinks were, for a while that was a big deal, and that was always in the PvP set battlegrounds, right? You come up against a twink and you were dead, no matter what. In a PvE setting, it really didn't affect much of the game. Those were the people you'd probably want in your group.
Meh.
Those damn PvPers messing everything up.
Some people are going to want to have their characters be, as powerful as possible at any given moment. And they'll go to, great extents to do it. And that's how they want to play. That's how they want to play.
So, why does everything have levels? Also, that's a question. But anyways, we have other things to talk about.
To DO
D&D.
Nomad, you have to have stuff for the lower level people to do to help defend their town. So there will be stuff for low levels to do. For sure.
Yeah, I guess as we were saying that, I was sort of in my head, yeah, if you're level 15 and you're trying to develop a node, sure, you're going to want a PvP. But people coming to do the attacking, on the other hand, I would assume you would want the highest level people in your group in order to take over stuff. But again, that's an assumption that we don't really know how character skill, player skill, where that balance is. It might not matter that you're 5-10 levels lower, that if you're actually skilled as a player and how you control your character, that you can overcome that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. We will have to see, though, if there's... what is it? It's not balancing. What is it called when you... put the levels at the same place? I forget
Flatten
the word
it?
for that. Maybe whatever that is. That where tweak it so that everybody's kind of more or less within 10 levels of each other or something like that.
Wise. Yeah, that's a word.
That's not the word. Scaling. I think that's the word. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Scale it so that people are within 10 levels of each other, so you're not just one-shotting everybody.
Right.
And
again, that goes back to the idea of doing kind of how Defiance would do it with PvP encounters and events, where when you're within a certain area that's a designated battle area, you're just all pumped up to the basically max level or a relevant level so that nobody's at a disadvantage and everybody can participate.
All right. So there was also this interview again, just like
we're not going to talk about Extra Life.
I mean, what?
Nothing happened.
I mean, go ahead.
So Extra Life was funny. They raised a lot of money. Steven shaved his beard, which is already starting to grow back, so not too much to cry about there. Everybody put a whipped cream pie in his face. They revealed some information about the ancients, which was kind of given a little bit more detail in the Ashen Pathfinders stream earlier today.
They raised. They raised. Was it 88,000? What did they raise this time?
Something like that, I think. I can't remember what they raised in the long run there.
I think their goal was 20,000. Yeah, I think their goal was 20,000.
Yeah, and they completely blew that out.
They went a little over the 24 hours. I think they had 75,000 within 24 or maybe 25 hours, and then they ended with 88. I've been working way too much, so I was asleep most of Saturday, and I think I woke up Sunday just as they were around 72,000 or something like that. I did think I saw Neuro and Woodship in there, and I know Margaret was talking about having to leave at 9. I don't know if they played until 9, but they played in over at least a couple hours over the 24-hour mark, from what I remember. So they went well over their goal, and I think 88,000 is the most that they've raised at one time. So that was great.
Yeah, it's good work and good way to get everyone to open the pockets there for Extra Life.
Mhm.
So with that, we did get the kind of visuals, 3D render of the Ancients. The one they showed was kind of this video clip of this thing with these big, bony, evil-looking wings, and kind of has this like demon hellspawn sort of look to it. They're uh, designed to look like the bad things. And we kind of learned a little bit more about them in the stream earlier today.
This would not have been the topic that I would have jumped to because I have a feeling this could be an entire show. This idea of good versus evil.
Yeah, I
But
wouldn't say
we
the
can
good
talk.
versus evil. We can leave that for another one if we want. But it was more the idea with this that they've shown the ancients, and he kind of talked about how the what the souls are conduits for the essence, then the gods control the essence, and the conduits kind of channel the flow of essence through the planes like a river and trickles down. So um, that's kind of a different sort of thing for the ancients, I guess. They're like a different sort of conduit. They're corrupted, and they develop in a corrupted way. They have this whole caste system where the way they look and the way they're formed in different ways and for different roles is based on generations of selective breeding and adaptation on their part. So it's kind of an interesting sort of thing. It talked about like good versus evil with like a capital G versus E sort of thing. So these are distinctly, definitively evil creatures compared to the players are playing distinctly, definitively good creatures. We were made by the
Well,
gods, and
light and
etc.
corrupt. It's light and
That's
corrupt. So
yeah. So
because evil can actually be on the good side.
yeah.
What here was my own. See, this is why I wouldn't have picked this topic. But my question is,
Well,
can I help the so-called evil
yes.
side?
Yes.
The
Not
corrupt side,
not
yeah.
just join their religious path, but actually in some way or manner help them.
Oh, I would imagine going down the religious path, you will already have
He
helped them
doesn't
to
want to
some
do
extent.
religion.
Well, that would be my first choice if I'm forced to. I'm going to be as against it as I can, just for the hell of it. So, if I
He
can,
kind of said in the stream earlier that doing quest, there will be a quest line that's kind of your pathway towards the access
but
to the gods.
did I now I'm still catching up on all this, so I have not had a chance to read much of the lore and all that. So, is my understanding that part of what we'll be fighting as PVE will be these sort of, are we going to be fighting members of the ancients, or what is the actual?
The ancients will be housed in the castles
Because they
when
mentioned
we
like
start.
lieutenants and
So
raid bosses.
we're gonna have to kick the ancients out of the castles to begin with.
So if I can follow their religious path, can I somehow help them and prevent them from being kicked out?
Actually, you might be able to help reestablish a place in their name and summon one. Have them be your general essentially, or your captain there. I could definitely see them doing that sort of thing for sure.
So, like from a reputation, if I follow this religious path and I somehow work my way up within this group, can I walk into an area that other people go in to fight? Right, they go in to fight, clear these people out. Can I walk in there and like have conversations and drink with them and dance with them? Maybe buy
Certainly
some
hope
items.
so. I would certainly hope so. Like they
And are
should
we
see
still
you as
expecting this
worthy if
game
you're
to come
recognized
out in
like that.
2022?
I've been saying 2023.
Because that's a whole lot of work, but I would love to see
Because
that.
between that and the fact that caravans will have like customization and swappable parts, and the mounts will have customization and swappable parts, and the ships will have customization and swappable parts, that yeah, that is a whole lot for the art and design and engineers to, work through over the next however long it's gonna take.
My question though is, yeah, I would assume that's right. So he says, I'm guessing it would be sort of alignment, so I'd be chaotic evil, and yeah, I would assume that as well. But I guess my question is, how would I then? What would be my role within the game world as far as PVE, PvP? Like, what would I, as a chaotic evil character, right? So what am I doing? Um, am I just role playing this, but at the same time, I'm just kind of in the same guild as everyone else and killing, the same things as everyone, and it really has no meaning other than maybe how I look or the god I worship. Like, what change does that make?
Well,
Chaotic evil
so
doesn't mean you don't kill other chaotic evil things. I'd imagine you're still gonna like tag along with people and be the guy that pulls the lever
No,
that
that's a good.
lowers the bridge and lets you get all the treasure or
I mean, that's a
whatever.
good point, but
Stuff like that.
I would guess I'm less likely to kill other chaotic evil creatures than I am, good. Like, I assume I would have more hatred towards the opposite end. I mean, that's a good
but
point, but you are chaotic and you're evil, so you're just going to do whatever
Like
you
you
want
would be
to do.
trying
But
to exploit them, though. Like that
well,
your evil isn't necessarily lethal, it's that you want to use them.
as far as I know, Ashes definitely doesn't have order versus chaos, so that's not even a thing. But even evil, I think you can have evil among the light, because Ashes is really light versus corrupt. So the real question is, does following that darker path actually cause you to be corrupt? And how does that affect your
can
standing
I go
No,
to
among?
that's
this
that's
raid
that's a
zone?
good question because if we're talking about the lore that was talked about today, there shouldn't be any raids on other places by other, people of the religions of the holy gods, the light gods, the light pact or whatever, that it's it would be deemed improper or whatever, that you should just be able to work things out diplomatically. And so,
Wait, when was that said?
oh no, what I'm saying is that if it's one of those things where, of course, there's got to be some amount of evil and deceit and stuff among the players, otherwise we wouldn't attack each other. Like we would have a pact where
Right,
we
but
work
again,
together everywhere.
that's the thing. It's not really evil. It's conflict and competition, and um, those things aren't really evil. And then you really have. I mean, we might, and that's I think one of the things that Stephen talked about is that's a morality thing that is a lesser thing that the ancients think is that is for those the the light pantheon. That's what they talk about, but what they do is not evil. um, they're just doing what they need to do to get the best access to the essence that allows them to do what they want, and that's a corrupted view. So there's rivalry and bickering and competition and all that amongst the other religions of the light pantheon, but um, corruption is different. And so again, I wonder, since corruption starts actually um, changing the way corrupted entities look, um, does choosing to follow the corrupted pantheon cause you to be corrupt and therefore hunted by everybody else?
No, it would be interesting if you're in a state where you're, permanently considered corrupt. Would
So
you still
you're
be a red player, or would you be something different where you actually get to keep your gear when you die?
Hmm.
So you're tying that into the whole anti, whatever shanking process that you are.
I'm saying I don't know, but he talked about
I hope not.
the other gods being corrupt, and that's what the focus of the game really has been, is light versus corrupt, not good versus evil. And so, what does constitute belonging to these other religions? That's something we will have to inquire further into.
Okay.
There is no chaotic, as far as I know, so you would just be neutral. And again, you could do all kinds of stuff neutral. It seems like choosing uh, to join the corrupted pantheon is like a very specific choice, and you're choosing to continue to go down that path. So you just choose not to go down the path, and then you can do all kinds of stuff, and that's fair gameplay.
So we're kind of almost out of time. There was one thing that caught my eye that really annoyed me in your summary, Neuro, of the video. And that was, what was it? Animal husbandry allows for access to a wide variety of snap together pieces.
Yeah,
What in the
and
hell does that mean?
so he's kind of talking about that where how the creatures are made. They use similar skeletons, similar rigs, but that there's kind of like cutoff or break points that he was saying they could use those to swap out different things. I would imagine like a different head on a horse body,
See,
or
that is
you know, bird
not
talons instead of claws on a cat or
that is
something.
not at all what my impression or hope of this animal husbandry idea was. I was not looking or under the impression that the main thing would be sort of creating mutant looking creatures.
No, if we make mutant-looking creatures, I think
Well,
it's just like the variations within a certain sort of creature, and maybe a little bit of fantastical stuff we can mix in.
well, the reason I said, because then I also assume part of that just makes it easier from a coding perspective. But because when I think of it, I think of how do I make the best, how do I make the best strength wise for a horse or stamina wise for a horse? How do I interbreed things in such a way that you bring out characteristics of just different traits, not this idea of crossbreeding to get these weird looking animals. So that makes me wonder about how they would do would they do the same with, um, putting together strength or stamina? Because I always view this, and again, all of this is really spoiled by what was not meant to be Illyria ideas, of an actual sort of genetic perspective where things are linked and you are not necessarily aware of what gets passed from one to another. That kind of goes away if you start talking about snap together pieces. So, and that just annoys me.
It could very well be that what he means by the snap together pieces is just like the variance that exists within one type of creature, not the ability to swap multiple things. But he was also talking about that the corrupted animals are going to be amalgams. All of this was in the context that it's a lot easier for them to generate normal looking creatures or creatures that use the normal skeletons that they've already developed, than it is to create the more unique creatures. So they're going to focus on the stuff that's easier to knock out first while they continue, developing their pipeline towards being ready to do more unique skeletons and rigs later on.
Yeah, I just hope it becomes more than that eventually, because otherwise that's just a very watered down idea of what I had of the idea of breeding and crossbreeding. But anyways,
Yeah, I think Theater Elf is saying that.
well, that also kind of, but that also gives me an idea of probably how they would do other stats. So,
Well, as Theater Elf was saying, it's more breeding two animals together, and two different types of animals together. And then which attributes do you want to focus on? Physical attributes do you want to focus on?
Oh, I know. But I mean that just also gives me a sense of what the approach they'll probably take with stats versus permutations and mutations and crossover events and all these other things that really come into play when you're actually talking about interbreeding or animal husbandry. That kind of gets really tossed out the window to more of just a modular system.
No, I think it's included.
Well, you wouldn't be
But
just putting blocks together though in that way.
it
That's
doesn't
not how
say
it works.
he didn't say just.
I know that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping it's not how they do everything.
Right.
Now, granted, the vision that I have is probably a lot of work to get it working, but
I think it's both. But we'll see.
all right. We're at 9:00. There was a whole lot out of that interview today, but we are gonna, I think, cover it probably in 2 weeks or talk a little bit more about it then. When's the next stream? Are they changing that at all with the holiday? Have they announced that?
They have not.
Okay.
We'll see, I guess. I imagine they will make some adjustment for the holiday. I don't know if they're going to completely push it back a month or if it's just going to be different day. We'll see. It'll come up.
All right, and a lot of good beard questions in chat now. So, all right. Well, everyone, thanks again for coming out. We will be back hopefully next week. Partially my fault that we've been kind of doing every other week, but actually hope to have another Pantheon stream soon. Just waiting to get word, and yeah. So everyone have a good week. Diggs is still typing, so I'm trying to keep talking until he's done.
No, keep going. I'm just.
What do you mean?
answering
That's what I'm saying. I'm done.
chat. Yeah, so we're done.
All right. Well, everyone have a good week, and thanks again for joining us. So we will hopefully see you in a week. See you.